20 years ago, I helped start a band that was going to be the next big thing on a tiny indie record label out of Gainesville, Florida. 10 years later, Fueled by Ramen Records had set the music industry on fire, but our band had burned itself out. It was a cautionary tale of bad blood and missed opportunities, but music icons like Jack Antonoff took note of our influence on the scene.
I think that there's about 600 to 1,000 bands currently that owe their entire career to the stereo.
Alternative Press said we made one of the 10 most influential records of 1999, and members of incredibly successful multi-platinum acts like Fall Out Boy and Fun sang our praises. But most people have never even heard of us, so what happened? This is the story of the stereo.
Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Record Jams, brought to you by the Right On Network. I'm AJ.
I'm Arthur.
And on episode 29 of On the Record Jams, Arthur and the audience, we are bringing this group from 1999. They're hailing from Austin and Minneapolis, Austin, Texas, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that is The Stereo. The Stereo, this is very interesting. We're going to talk about The Stereo. We're going to talk about their record 300. It's the name of the album, their first album, and it's the name of the song, the single I want to talk about, 300. So, Arthur, I brought this to you, I guess before we really go into it. One, I want to thank our Patreon subscribers. And that's Alan Wright, Delvin Sims, Cluck Trent, Ken Fedorkowski, Mark Blair, Paul Hicks, Laurel Phillips, The Irredeemable Shag, Justin Steiner, Rick from Jeff and Rick Present Unpacking the Power of Power Pack, Chris Pine 1, you'll hear more from him on this feed later, Bill Beer, April 5K, Jordan Holt, and Clinton Robeson. So thank you guys for going to patreon.com/RightOnNetwork. We'll put the information of how to get there on the show notes. And the reason why I wanted to shout them out before we started this is because they are the reason why this here podcast exists. We're approaching 30 episodes. We're already past one calendar year, and there's no stopping us now. So let's get back to this. I'm bringing to the record 300, the song by The Stereo. So The Stereo consists of, it was started by these two gentlemen, Rory Allen Phillips and Jamie Woolford. So Jamie Woolford, before these two came together like Voltron, in the 90s, they were a part of this kind of punk, ska, rock genre scene. And Jamie Woolford, he was part of a group called Animal Chin. And Rory Phillips, he was hailing out of Austin, Texas, and he was part of this kind of third wave ska group called The Impossibles. And I just absolutely love them. It's poppy, it's punk, it's rock, it's fun, it's very kind of adolescent, it's very young, it's very aspiring. And when those two ran its course, they were like two men without a home, and their record label, someone from Fueled by Ramen, brought them together and said, hey, you guys are good songwriters. Why don't you form a band together? And they did, and they called it The Stereo, and they produced their own album. And the production on it is like, and especially, I got to take you back to the 90s. All right. So in the 90s, it was a lot going on as far as like in the independent underground scene. All right, so this is during a time where you go to South by Southwest and it wouldn't cost you $1,000. And it really was for, hey, these are some really good bands. They don't really get seen. This is a chance for you to see some good bands for a good price. All right, boom, South by Southwest. So there was a lot going on. And when I was going to some of these shows, it was punk rock stuff still going strong. It was ska. And it was kind of like things influenced by Weezer and a little bit of like of the Foo Fighters. And then you're also getting like it's gurgitating, it's gestation, it's coming to the surface, and it's coming, and you're about to get this third wave emo. Like it's getting there. And I remember where I would go like, these people, they got these Peter Pan pants on. They got Peter Pan pants on. And then later, like in the early 2000s, like, oh, skinny jeans. But I remember because I'm still in the era of like we're wearing baggy pants, right? So when I saw people with the Peter Pan pants on, I just kept thinking like they're wearing Peter Pan pants. Not the band, but like just people going to these shows. So they get together, they produce this album, and it's really good. It's called 300, and they're doing a lot for the genre, which it could be limited because they're doing, you and I, we've talked about 2 Weezer songs on here. And we talked about Weezer songs from their early work, 1995, 1997. Well, what we're going to talk about today is kind of the fruits of that labor. Kind of like the grandchildren of it, or like, all right, Weezer, we saw what you did with it, watch this, and we're going to run with it. This is also during a time where, as far as social media, there's LiveJournal. So this is during a time where, like someone mentioned this, I don't know if you bumped into this, they talked about how there's a lot of stuff from the 90s, I think as far as like TV or just media, you can't get it on YouTube. Like it's kind of hard to find. But like some 70s stuff, some 60s stuff, like it's there. But for some reason, like 90s things, wiped. Or just really hard to navigate and get to. And so a lot of the stuff, because like there's things from like 2007, I'm looking at shows, like, because I like bands that I like looking at their live performances. So 2007, 2001, like it's there. There's some British band called Small Faces. They were out in the 60s, and it's some rare footage of them covering Got a Hold on Me. You Really Got a Hold on Me by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. Now, how in the heck can I get that rare thing? But like there's the stereo performances, and that's because people, if they were recording stuff at that time, it would have been on their camcorder. Where now things are, recorded on people's phones. The way the microphone picks it up, like I think when we first had the cell phones at the shows, it was just boom, 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 like the microphone is just distorted. Now things are coming in clearly. But I guess in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, people were bootlegging quality stuff. But there's not that much on the stereo as far as their early live performances. There's a couple where they go like on a local television show, and it's early in the morning. They go like on some news show in Minneapolis, and bam. But this is the stereo. When I threw this, Arthur, what were some of your initial thoughts?
Well, I saw the connection, right? I heard the Weezer connection, and then I started studying the group and understanding that. I know my 70s funk band lineage or love. The story of the stereo makes perfect sense of me, right? To me, like you get these groups disband, and then you have people that want to keep going. And when they keep going, they create new bands, and you just never know. It might be the second band, it might be the third or fourth band. And when you have musicians trying to make music, maybe the first thing you try doesn't always work. And also a lot of the artists that we know, and some of the huge artists in those cases, they went through the same thing. Like what you got to know them as when they quote unquote hit, that might have been like their fourth or fifth thing that they tried. Different lineups, different people, different genres of music, just a different style altogether, even if it's in the same genre. So the story, I like to hear it. It sounds really familiar. And it's like you say, when those sounds get hot and then they die down, and people like, hey, I was just doing that sound because that's where I was at that time, but I can do something else. I can break out another sound. And it's good to know that a group like the Stereo could get together and make some things happen, even though they changed some lineups around and they kind of ran through a bunch of albums in a short period of time. But then they came back and almost to a lesser degree, but it was kind of like that Weezer story that we talked about where you find out like, wait, y'all care about this? Oh, wait, y'all like this? Oh, okay. I helped other people work on their albums. So now my sound got to live through other groups. And so even if your individual group doesn't end up being huge, like maybe your sound ends up leading to something else that might be sneaky huge, or at least, something that people got to really hear and appreciate. So I think hearing that and trying to deconstruct that, thinking, okay, this is 99, putting this where it is with the other stuff, I think that's something that our show gives us a chance to do, right? Like you say, okay, 1999, where does this fit in with Weezer? Where does this fit in with some of the groups that came after them? Like we were talking about before we hit record, like where does this go with the countermeasures? Like what about this versus the Strokes, or those types of things, or what's happening in hip hop while this is going on? Like all those different things are very interesting to me. So when I think about the band, I dig into all of that stuff and get into the stories. And it's also cool to see that they did the Kings of No Hope podcast. Just to, sit and reflect and talk about it. I think that's something that you talk about, us not having access to certain things from the 90s, but as long as you're fortunate enough to still have access to the people and they're willing to sit down somewhere and documentary themselves and talk a little bit, you still get a lot of really good information that, depending on the artist, these people may have passed away before that was that time, or they had different things going on in their life that they just didn't see the value of coming out and sitting down and kind of pulling the curtain down a little bit. So it's cool to see that the Stereo, it seems like they had and are having like a full thing, right? Like they made some jams, they made some albums, changed lineups, broke up, got back together, made more music together, have had a time to kind of reflect and see their stuff come back around and get the love that it deserves, maybe a little bit more. And even again, if you get a chance to sit down and make a podcast about your stuff, or talk to somebody, or do a extensive interview where you can ask and answer like a lot of nerdy questions, I really like all of that type of stuff. So looking at the Stereo, it looks like they got a chance to do plenty of those things.
Yes, I played the promo for the podcast before this, and it is actually some really good journalism in it. Now, Jamie Woolford and Rory Phillips, to me, they just kind of get songwriting, like just how to write a song and its structure. So I can see how someone would think like, hey man, we put these two together, they can really come up with some good stuff. And the one thing that I like about the Stereo, this first album, and I like I'm a fan of their second and third album, but the thing I like about their first and fourth album is you have two lead singers. So I'm always a sucker for that, where, there's two songwriters, there's two singers. So sometimes this one is the lead on this song, and sometimes this one is lead on that song, or they may trade off vocals. That's going to get me every time. To me, that's just wonderful. So they start the Stereo, and it seems really promising. And as they're touring, I don't know if things just aren't going well. They have a recording session. Jamie Woolford really doesn't like how it's going down. He doesn't like Rory's voice, and Rory's voted out. And when he's voted out, he goes back to Austin, restart the Impossibles, and on that new Impossibles record called Return, because it's the Impossibles, their first album is called The Impossibles. Just like before Star Wars: A New Hope, it was just Star Wars. And then you get The Empire Strikes Back, and The Impossibles in the mid-90s, they have an EP, and it's called Back for the Attack. And then with the third, or part 6 of Star Wars, you get Return of the Jedi. The third album is called Return. This isn't me putting that together. That's what they said. All right. So on that Return album, you get some of the songs that would have been on the sophomore release of the Stereo, like Connecticut. And even though Gabe Haskell is singing lead on Never Say Goodbye, I'm thinking Rory probably wrote that for the stereo. So you get Connecticut, Hey You Kids, and in Hey You Kids, you get the lyrics, Hey You Kids, turn up the stereo, can't catch this on the radio. So I could see like, yeah, that would have worked well with the stereo. So it's like, all right, I got kicked out the stereo, but I'm going to bring those songs over to the Impossibles. And Jamie Woolford, he goes on with the stereo, and like we said, rotating lineups, rotating drummers. You'll hear about that in the podcast. And some of you that lived it, you know about that. But there's a second and third album. And Jamie Woolford, he goes, he really doesn't like the production of the second album. I like it. And then the third album is just power pop rock polished. And then the two of them, because years go by, children, gray hairs, now you're in the producer seat. And it's like, look, hey, man, all those hateful things you think you want to say, time will turn them into jokes. And they're back together. And they released an album called 13, and I think it is great. And it's back to, oh, he's the lead on this song, and he's the lead on that song. And he's the lead on this song, but then he's singing the middle eight bridge section. Oh, it's great. Wow, yes. So I'm happy about that. They did a live performance. So we got a live performance of this song 300, and I really love that one. But here is the lyrics to 300. And how Rory explains it was back in 1999 when they're producing this album, they're like, man, it's nothing but up from here. This is great, because I can kind of see them thinking, okay, we were doing that ska stuff, but we outgrown that, man. Ska's in the past. What we're doing here is more sophisticated and polished and grown up. I could see them thinking like, we're grown-ups now. Let's make some grown-up music. But now when you look back and you're like, oh, you were 22, 23, you're babies, right? Like, remember when we were listening to the Wu-Tang Clan and acts in the 90s, and they're like, I'm a veteran at this. I've been doing this. And they were like 23, 25, but they seem like old men. All right. So here it is. This is the stereo 300. Rory Allen Phillips is doing the lead on this. And it's about like optimism. Like, oh, I'm in this new band, but I'm going to put in the song. It's a true story. 2 a.m. You pulled me out of bed so we could go bowling. Met at the alley. I made a turkey. It never works, but the possibility is always there. Simple hesitations undermine. 2 weeks later, you're my Valentine. And when we fall, it's fine. Perfect moment, please don't end. Tonight, I got my strike on the colored pen. My crutches, I don't need them. Hallelujah, I'm saved. Can I have amen? Now, this is what we talked about with the white boys in the suburbs. They're kind of saying things where you wouldn't think they would say it. But now, instead of kind of emphasizing that, they're just saying it. So we said that like with Beck, with Weezer, whereas, look, what's with these homies, this is my girl, why do they got a front? And it's not like, I'm not saying it with an accent. I'm not emphasizing it. I'm just saying it. I've been saying this. So, hallelujah, I'm saved. Can I have an amen? Like all these passages underline, swimming with you in the summertime. And when we fall, it's fine. So, we get all kind of like, there's this kind of guitar breakdown where it sounds like 60s Beach Boys stuff. They rock out. A lot of it just, Rory, when he sings, it sounds like he's smiling. Like, it seems like you can hear him smiling. It just seems very hopeful and upbeat. But at the same time, it's rock guitars and it's very loud. Did you notice any of that juxtaposition as far as like, this is poppy, but this is also kind of noisy and garage rocky?
Yeah, but it's also got some of that. I know we talked about Motown a few different times and things in that 60 doo-wop, the efficiency of it. Like, you got 2.5 minutes or less to get out of there, and you got to get your stuff in. You got to get those breaks in. You got to get that sing-songy chorus. You got to tell the whole story. And this has a lot of that energy to it, right? Like, I'm going to get all this music laid into there. I'm going to get my rhyme schemes together. I'm going to get my jokes. I'm going to do it all. And I'm going to be really tight with this. Because, I mean, what is this? Barely 2 minutes?
Yes, you nailed it on the head with that because, and I mean this in a good way, this is pretty much a summary of everything that Rory does.
Okay.
Like, he makes different kind of music. Like he, as far as like approaching a song, he has different kind of songs. But I think if it was like, but let's put a composite together, it's this song.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But yeah, they nailed it with this. I really like Devotion too. Devotion's a little bit longer, but it's the same kind of concept, but it's just handled really well. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and they're jamming it, they're getting the point across, and they're bringing it.
Oh, yes. So you mentioned Devotion. It's the first song on this album, 300, back in 1999, and it's Jamie Woolford doing the lead on there. And again, it sounds like it's being earnest. There's punchlines in there, some dated jokes in there. If you got a stain, I'll shout it out. Now you lose the room making that joke, right? But the thing that I like about them, it's very immediate. Like the songs, they sound like we're recording on something where the tape pops at the 3 minute mark. So we got to get like, it's like they're under the gun. So other than they got 2 songs on there that I guess are ballads. I think 3 songs that are ballads. But other than that, it's like they're in and out. It's not even, maybe the song Ramona, we're kind of rocking out. We'll let it go for 45 minutes. Like Jay-Z said, they just go in. Sometimes you got to just sit there and let it. They jump in immediately. So like with Devotion, and this song 300, where you bowled a perfect game, I'm told, the lyrics begin immediately. Like they jump in immediately and they're getting out. And you said like kind of like the Motown thing where they're doing this, they're doing that. Even at the beginning of 300, we get a 1, 2, 3, 4. So like a count in. And I like that because it's kind of like a quirky thing where, oh, that wasn't supposed to be on the record, but it is. That was something they did in the studio, but the producer thought it would be kind of kitschy. It'd be kind of neat if we kept that in there. It's like they let us in. I love it. This, to me, this is, and in Devotion and this one, 300, there's background vocals.
Oh, yeah. They knew how to get you. I mean, the 2 lead singers thing, you make a great point because, like, I always say when the music comes on or when the beat comes on, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you can't say, okay, I know what this is going to sound like, especially if both vocalists are different, kind of like an Earth, Wind, and Fire situation, where it's like Maurice White and Philip Bailey do not sound the same. Like, they're singing in different registers. It's very obvious that they're different people. And as soon as you hear that first drum or that first set of horns, you don't know what's going to happen until it's happening. So all of that stuff is cool.
I love that where you say they're in the same band, but they're 2 different people. They have 2 different voice registers. So when they go at it, if they both sing at the same time, it really sounds like 2 different people instead of, we're just going to double track the lead singer doing his own vocals. And it's like, because, now on the 4th album, they have a bass player, and I think on certain songs, they just think it's better if he did the background. But just everybody just saying, please, just do it. Yeah, no, this, and there's a lot of stop, start, turn on a dime stuff. So again, we talk about Devotion, we're talking about 300. There's different parts. So like you're saying, like, hey, this 300 song is barely 2 minutes. But within that 2 minutes, there's a lot of parts. There's a lot of turn on a dime and like this is a part of the song and it sounds different than that part and that. So yeah, like we're saying, as far as songwriters, especially because, hey, what did Malcolm Gladwell say? Your 10,000 hours. these two, before they do this first stereo album, they've already put down 10,000 hours of playing music, touring, because this was during a time where bands, they were touring like crazy. If it was to 300 people, pun intended, or 10 people, they were touring like crazy. And as far as songwriters, they've been writing songs a lot. So especially if the two of them are in a room bouncing ideas off each other, I bet they're like, yeah, and then you can put this here, put that there. Now, they did talk about when they first started this first album, they were more about, well, don't touch this part, that's precious to me. Whereas when they became older men on the fourth album, they were less that. Like, okay, you know what? I'm open to this idea you have for this part.
Yep, you got to imagine that's tough too. That's another piece of that challenge when you're coming from having different relationships in the band, right? Because you can say, oh man, when my previous band, we used to do it like this. And like, well, dude, you want that? Go back to your other band. Like, this is this band now, and we're gonna do like we're gonna have things go sideways really quick. You start bringing up old stuff in a new situation, and like, hey, we ain't trying to hear all that, dude. Like, what are we doing now? Like, let's get something together now. And then I think the other challenge with music too, when you get too caught up in subgenres, you have an idea of what your group's quote unquote identity is supposed to be. And then maybe the group members don't 100% agree on that. So I think that's another challenge too. Especially, I mean, it seems like it happens either way, right? We've seen situations where groups hit and don't know how to do the follow-up, or they're doing well, but they're not getting the crazy numbers that they thought they were going to get, or they're getting pressure from a record label. And now they have to try to, kind of meet people halfway, maybe do a little bit of pandering, trying to see what's going on around you. Are you going to try to get you a hit and then sneak people into an album? And once they get the album, then you hope they like the stuff that you really liked, but you kind of played a game with them just to get them into it. And like all those different options and thoughts, and, there's a lot of ways to get it right. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat. And a lot of times it's just about that timing, man. Can you be the first one to give somebody something that they didn't know they needed until they got it? Or if you don't do that, then you kind of duck around and infuse your sound into other people's work. And so it seems like that's a lot of what happened with the stereo, right? They went off and worked with other people and got their sound in through that means, which is, you see that happen a lot too.
So just to put this album in context, in 1999, this is post Nirvana, and maybe record labels and such, they're thinking about, okay, so what do we do now? And you get a lot of like Nirvana, Pearl Jam acolytes, and you're getting stuff like Nickelback, and you're starting to get the rap rock stuff, Limp Bizkit, Korn, that kind of thing. So you have to kind of think this music that we're talking about right now. This was like, to me, this music sounds very friendly. So we'll put a link to the show. You can listen to yourself. But the music, like, it's loud and stuff, but it sounds very kind of pop, benign. And that would, but I think at the time, if you were to kind of go, hey, check this out, this would have been very weird. Maybe it wouldn't have been, because you do have the Foo Fighters. You do have kind of stuff like that. And this, I guess it was kind of Foo Fighters-esque, where we're being loud and I guess rock and alternative, but it's pop to it, I guess. So, like, to kind of put this in context, one time Rory and Jamie, they had a meeting with a record executive or something, and they knew that the guy had never heard their music, because they said he had the CD and it was still wrapped, and he was kind of talking with them. He was like, "Yeah, we want to work with you guys because you guys are one of those kind of like you're one of those lifestyle bands." like a lifestyle. Like, and I guess what that guy was probably saying, like, when they listen to your music, they look a certain way, they dress a certain way, like, or whatever. But he said, you're one of those lifestyle bands. But it's one of those things, like, whatever it is that they were doing, it was totally foreign of how to describe it. Because at the time, just people were doing some other stuff. Like in hip hop, we were listening to the Ruckus. Right? We were listening to back in the 1999. We were listening to that. We were listening to Eminem. All right? You had Korn. You had Common. You had Mos Def, Black on Both Sides. So this was, and then, we're mentioning Weezer. You're like, why do you guys keep talking about the Stereo and Weezer? Well, there was a Weezer tribute, like, during this time or whatever. And Rory was part of the Impossibles, and they did a cover of The Good Life. So there is some type of Weezer, the Stereo, whatever connections. It's not, I'm just putting this together for no reason. But yeah, they were definitely doing something where it wasn't truly defined ... ellipses yet. But then boom, you're going to get Fall Out Boy. You're going to get Fueled by Ramen being like a big deal and like really breaking bands. I believe like in Florida is where the record label is. And it's just that the Stereo is kind of one of those things where you're the first one through the door. It's kind of not a good thing sometimes because you're first.
Yep. And sometimes the first time is the worst time. Yep.
And I witnessed this. This is something else too. Because apparently the young people are moshing again. And I was able to see kind of the change. Like I was going to these shows, 97, 98, whatever. And people, they were just rocking, they are moving, they're skanking and all that stuff. At Sky shows, they're moshing, they're doing all this stuff. And then I remember it was probably 2004 or something. And I went to the Stereo show. They're promoting the third album. And the culture changed. Where now everybody it went from being emo to a hipster where you kind of show no emotion. So no one was dancing, no one was jumping or moving around, nothing. They were just staring. So I guess it was a first for him too. So he was like, are you guys not like, are you not entertained or any of that stuff? But it was like, oh, this is the shift. Like people aren't doing that anymore. They're just, hey, I'm standing here. I got my arms folded and I'm watching you play.
Yeah.
And now apparently the younger people, I guess they've seen footage of people moshing and like, I want to feel again or whatever. And apparently young people are moshing again.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So, yeah, this is The Stereo. It's the song 300 from the album 300. It's a great album. Arthur mentioned Devotion. I would say play Can't Go Home Again because it's a love letter. It's a Rory-led song, and it's a love letter to his band, The Impossibles, about, hey, I can understand why some of you want to break up. It felt like we were going at 1,000 miles per hour, but only going 1 mile forward, and you got burned out. But then what's interesting is once Rory was kicked out of the band the first time, hopefully the last time, he went back to the Impossibles and they played music. And Gabe Haskell and Rory out in Phillips, they made other music together, Slow Reader. They've been performing in Austin, doing performances of the Impossibles and Slow Reader songs together in the 2025. So, yeah, man, Arthur and I, we talk about this all the time. Like, we get it, man. It might be personal things that went on in your life, but at the end of the day, man, nobody cares and nobody's watching, but everybody cares and everybody's watching. So, like, if you're able-bodied, man, just get together and do the stuff.
Please,
just do
figure it out. Have the conversation. Don't be like New York rappers. I heard you said this, and now I'm gonna make 6 songs about you. And it's like, yeah, maybe don't make the 6 songs. Make 1 phone call. And what do you know? Things might be all right. Or if people calm down, maybe you have to do 2 phone calls. And then maybe you don't got to make a whole mixtape about another person over alleged besmirching. Maybe you haven't really even been besmirched. He wasn't talking about you at all on that song. He was just, rappers talk tough all the time. But yeah, like when you get these groups, yeah, and it's tough too, right? Because people are putting their whole life and their livelihood into these things, and they want it to work out. There's a lot of pressure, and you could see how it could go wrong, but exactly like you're saying, like, man, don't let it stay wrong. Like, there was a reason why y'all were together at some point. Unless there's some true insurmountable stuff, like, get back on the same page, make some music, and what do you know? People are generally going to roll with you. People are going to try to love on you. People are going to want to give you a chance. And we've seen that proven out so many times.
Because, hey, here's the deal. Look, maybe do this to get that tuition money for that child's private school. Do this to get that wing built on that home. And don't even worry about touring. Hey, do your 3 shows in your town. Have someone record it professionally. Put that sucker online, get them clicks. People want to buy merchandise, man. So, get together, man.
Get together, man. Think about what Nas is doing, man, with this whole thing with Mass Appeal. All these albums we got just in 1 year, like Slick Rick and Ray and Ghost making albums separately. We get a De La Soul album, and now we're about to get a Nas and DJ Premier album, and it's really happening. Like, they put a date on it. I think I've seen an album cover. Like, we're just completely out of control. Like, it can happen. It can be done. So do it.
All right, guys. So look, check it out. Check out The Impossibles. Check out the stereo. And check us out, man. We're on Facebook. We're on all the social media. We got ontherecordjams@gmail.com. Go ahead and click on the show notes. Click on where you can reach us. It's your choice, Fielder's choice. And let me know, man, did you listen to... I want to know your thoughts about when you listen to Living in the City, For the City by Stevie Wonder. I still got questions. I still have thoughts about that song. Let us know what you thought about the stereo album, 1999, 300. All right. Have you ever bowled a 300 before? Let us know. So until next time, keep your lamplight trimmed and burning.
Keep on jamming.